Good morning. This is Bakes, Kevin Baker with Bakes Takes. Welcome to the show. This is for election week or month or months plural. I don't know, but welcome. Number one, the stock market has beat the pollsters. We've been talking about this. Is Trump going to win? Don't know, but it's a lot closer than everybody was talking about, except for your humble correspondent, and you listeners were in on that for several times. Chart Mania. Went through 1,700 charts this week. Regional banks, cannabis, Nigeria. I know what you're saying. If I have another podcast to talk about Nigeria, I'm going to pull my hair out. I don't have any hair, so I don't know what you're talking about. Post-election levity, and boy, do we need it now. It's current election levity, let's say. But the Comedy Store, the Cabin are fabulous, and wait to the end. We'll talk about that a little bit more. First off, my portfolio. Just a small account to show, what I'm doing with a small amount of real money. Number one, Bitcoin is working. GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin ETF, that's up. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Hero, the Global X Esports and Gaming ETF is also working. Uranium is not working right now. I'll talk about that more. There's a couple things that came in over the week that bolster my long-term belief in uranium going north. So let's get right into it. Exploding Topics, great newsletter, by the way. I recommend it. I think there's a free and a premium version, and it uses AI to see what's exploding, becoming popular in searches, not just around the internet. Prime Gaming. It's Amazon Prime Video for video games. It's a subscription service that offers up a variety of games and in-game items, along with a channel subscription to the Twitch channel that Amazon owns. It's one of games as a service, a play on SaaS, software as a service. This is games as a service. Many products hitting the market. 25% of all video game revenue now comes from game as a service transactions, GAS, G-A-A-S. Monthly subscriptions, microtransactions, season passes. Gaming market is on track to grow by 9.3% in 2020, hitting an all-time high of $159 billion in annual sales. Consoles and games only make up about 28% of the entire video game market now. So most of today's gaming revenue is generated from mobile gaming, esports, cloud gaming, gas services. It's a real business and a real trend, and I feel silly as a 56-year-old guy. I know I look younger. That doesn't play video games, but it's just every time I turn around, I see validation of the theme, and so I'm going to play it. My good folks friends at Azarius Capital, they are value investors outside of Philadelphia. We used to do a lot of meetings together, even though I was on the growth side. John Quakes also talks about this, but BHP signaled that it's not going to go ahead with a $2.5 billion project, the Olympic Dam expansion in Australia, that was supposed to come on board over the next couple of years. Copper is the main product, uranium is the byproduct, but they're shelving it. And so that supply that utilities and market participants were looking to come on board is not coming. So at least at these prices. So the story continues that the Japanese reactor fiasco in 2011, I'm almost positive I have that year right. It's 9 years later. The supply matched the demand destruction. Now nuclear power is picking back up, and supply has been constrained by COVID and other things like this decision. And so we're getting ready to have utilities go into the market, put long-term contracts up at higher prices that will feed into the mining companies that are in things like the URNM ETF that I own and been talking about seems like forever. So my take, uranium is a long-term bull market that's very much intact. Fan mail, everything was about the election this week. And I responded to my sons. If I had the full results Wednesday morning, and of course no one did, I wouldn't know what stocks would do. I literally, if they said there was a landslide for Biden, a landslide for Trump, I don't know how markets would have reacted if there was a blue wave in that. So I keep coming back to the things that I've talked about on this podcast before, that the stock market determines the presidency. Not perfectly, maybe, but this is a way closer than virtually every other source that you were reading about. It was Biden, 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 blue wave. And that did not happen because the stock market is a great predictor and driver. It's a reflection of social mood. The stock market is up 50% plus since Trump came in. People feel wealthier. Not everybody, but when the market is up for the 4 years prior, the incumbent stays in virtually every time. I think it's every time, period. When the market is up to 3 months prior to the election, 87% of the time the incumbent stays in. So I know many of you out there hate Trump. The market doesn't care. And there's a lot of people that don't like Trump, but they still vote for him. Two different things. So the market is up. Many people feel wealthier. They want to keep the guy in that they think creates all this. He does not. The stock market is the collective wisdom of 340 million Americans and 7 billion inhabitants of the earth, trying to grow their wealth. And when it's up, people feel better, and they keep the incumbent in. So my take, politics just don't matter that much ever. Now, a couple of things. Nevada, Mike just mentioned to me that Nevada is going to talk about their election results at noon. That sounds like it's the last I saw it was sort of light blue, so favoring Biden. I've seen some things that suggest that those 6 electoral votes get him to 270. I've heard that Arizona is, I thought it was in the Biden camp. I've seen that now Trump is questioning that, perhaps suing them. Philadelphia is counting votes feverishly. That's a Democratic stronghold. Trump leads right now. So there's a lot of things to go on. It just doesn't matter that much ever. And so you go into the booth, you pull your lever, and then whatever happens, happens. I hope we don't have violence. I hope we don't have, enduring controversy. Nobody likes this. But at the end of the day, uranium is going to go up whether Biden or Trump are in my opinion. So let's dial it back and keep our wits about us. Podcasts of the week. One of my favorites, The Compound Show, Josh Brown. He's the CEO of Ritholtz Wealth Management. I talk about him a lot. But he has he had a great interview with Hadi Youssef. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. The Earnings Call app. It's a great idea. Getting on Earnings Call is a pain in the neck. If you're following 40 companies, you go to 40 websites, 40 IR pages. You plug in either a webcast or a phone number, and they're overlapping many times. What this fellow did was turn them all into podcasts, in essence. So if you want to get on the Cameco call for uranium, which I'm probably going to do on the ride home, I just hit the app, play it, maybe at a little faster speed so that I can get through it. I've got the attention span of a gerbil sometimes, so I could pick up the pace there. So just check it out. I'm starting to play with it. I think it's kind of cool, and there's a lot of other and Josh goes into some of the other applications that could be going on with this. Give it a shot and see what you think. If you're especially involved in individual stocks that really interest you, the conference call is kind of a cool venue, especially because you can hear intonations and gaps and I don't know. I think it's better than reading the transcript, in my opinion. Anyway, The next one is Macro Voices. This is Eric Townsend. Patrick Serezna is on the call as well. This gets wonky sometimes, really gets into the weeds, but it's really good in my opinion. It caught my ear was Mike Alkin from Sachem Cove, who advises URNM, the uranium ETF that I mentioned. He was on the call. There's another fellow too. I didn't write his name down. I apologize. It's not in my notes here. But go to the slide deck. You go to Macro Voices, sign up for the service, and get the slide deck if you'd like, if you want to get into the weeds. But I respected their request not to distribute it and put it in the notes. They asked me to. They asked everybody to. But he goes through the uranium case much more elegantly than I just did in this. Talks about the BHP project being shelved, which is bullish, and he's probably the authority on uranium going on right now, and it's about 40 minutes or so, and I recommend it. I think if you have an interest in uranium, and the Macro Voices podcast covers a lot of great topics, and I find it's one of my go-tos. Next one is Business Casual. This is from the Morning Brew, hosted by Kinsey Grant, and this segment was legal weed. And the cannabis market is $16 billion. The black market, they estimate, is 4 to 5 times. Who gives me these figures? Her guest, Karen Wadera, who is with Casa Verde Capital, which is Snoop Dogg's VC firm, which you can't make that up. New Jersey just approved adult recreational cannabis, and it showed up in the charts as well, which I'll share with you later. I'm fascinated by this, mainly because I've seen what happened with gambling. You've seen what's happened with gambling. COVID and other things are completely crushing state tax revenues, city tax revenues, and so you can't tax if it's a black market. If it's legal, you can tax it, and I think that this trend is going to continue. A little bit of a subtlety. It's not subtle. It's illegal U.S. worldwide. It's a scheduled drug. It's archaic. It's going to change over time, obviously, but stay tuned. Again, it shows up on the charts. I plugged it into my Google alerts, and I'll have more to talk about down the road. I'm curious to see, this is my take, if we have follow-through post-election. So far, the volume's pretty light. Tuesday, volume was light. Wednesday picked up. I don't see confirmation of a lot of these trends yet, and cannabis is one of those things that I have in the question mark category. Reporters of the week, next segment. Wall Street Journal, this is Paul Vigna. Bitcoin is trading near 3-year highs, and I knew it was up. I didn't know it was up that much. It's beating gold futures. It's beating the S&P 500. I understand the appeal of Bitcoin, especially with money printing rampant here in the U.S. and around the world. Got a boost recently with PayPal saying that it would allow users to directly buy and sell Bitcoin in their digital wallets. In 2021, it's going to expand the service to Venmo, which I have to believe almost all of you are on using, fairly frequently, and allow 26 million merchants that use PayPal to accept Bitcoin for payment. So this is becoming real. Perhaps it's always been real, but it used to be seen as a speculation derided by Jamie Dimon and others, and I'm turning around on this. I have a small investment, but I'm fascinated. I'm watching PayPal and Venmo, and as always, I appreciate your insights. You're the community. The more feedback you give me, the more this becomes a conversation that benefits us all. The next one is on CNBC Squawk Box. Andrew Ross Sorkin, great interview with the Merck CEO, MRK, the pharmaceutical company. Ken Frazier, CEO, very impressive in my opinion, measured, and it just caught my eye. I was doing three other things, and I really stopped and listened to him. He personally is downsizing his Thanksgiving. My term, not his. I don't think that's an exact quote, but was going to have the usual big family gathering, and he's dialing it down because of COVID, and he doesn't feel there's a vaccine readily available until mid 21. So it's we didn't have a vaccine for the election. Are we going to have one for year end? Mid 21 seems to be a pretty good estimate from, I think, one of the most knowledgeable and interwoven CEOs in this space right now. So take that for what it's worth. This is, I believe, in Barron's. Wheat prices are rising even with record stocks. That could end badly. This is from Mira Safong, and it tempers what I saw in the charts. It had very dry weather in Russia, very dry weather in the U.S., and wheat prices picked up. And what she's pointing out is that there's a seasonality that's involved here, and that during the winter not much happens until you see the planting conditions for next year. So I don't own wheat right now. I'm paying attention to it, but put a little caution that you don't see a lot of movement during the winter usually, and so I'm not going to get too worked up about wheat at this point in time. Charts and tweets of the week. As you know, I go through 1,700 charts a month. Takes some time, but I just learned so much in my 3 hours that I do that, give or take. First thought, election day volume didn't confirm in my mind. A lot of these things are less than a 50% increase. To review a little bit, if you're looking at this on YouTube, the blue volume is the up volume, which I focus on a lot. The pink is the down volume. And right now we don't have a big confirmation of these themes at this point in time. I think you had a little bit of buying the rumor of elections, and maybe we're selling the news to some extent. So I want to see some follow through and some meaningful action here. I'll give you a tip. I've given it to you before, but whenever you come across a new theme or anything you want to investigate, put it into Google Alerts. Now, it basically looks for goes through the entire internet and spits out a lot of chaff, but there's also some wheat, not physical wheat. That's an analogy. Regional banks looked interesting to me, and I can come up with a fundamental case for that. The bond yields are picking up, yield curve steepens, net interest margins get better. I don't know if that's going to play out just this far, but it's a pretty impressive base. Volume is picking up. I'm paying attention to it. And again, I do this at the end of every month, and so it also coincides with November 3rd, the election. So there's a lot of noise in this, and it'll clear up over the course of the next month, in my view. Second one, and this goes to another point that I've made in the past, where I almost physically cover up the upper left so I check my bias at the door. This is a chart of Nigeria. I almost couldn't find Nigeria on a map. I had Google do it. And I want to hear your thoughts. If you have any knowledge or interactions with Nigeria. I know it's a big oil producer, but oil's acting kind of lousy. $39. Maybe there's something going on with their type of crude and what they're exporting. So again, I'm just starting this journey. I'd like to have you with me on this, but talk about something that is contrarian, off the beaten path, uncorrelated with the FANG stocks. I submit Nigeria to you, and so I'm going to pay attention. Inflation expectations. This is the ProShares inflation expectations ETF. Reflects the TIPS, the inflation protected treasuries, and again, my eye is drawn towards a base and the volume picking up on the far right. And I think the consensus seems to me that inflation is dead. Interest rates are low forever. And this calls that into question, in my opinion. We talked about wheat. Here's the wheat chart. It looks promising, but again, the seasonality has reared its head, and I'm a little bit more cautious here. Healthcare services, that's a beautiful base. The volume is picking up on the far right. Again, it could be election noise, so I want to see some confirmation, follow through, further action. But, it could be knee-jerk. Medicare for all is getting closer. Healthcare services goes up. So now some of that's priced in. We'll see what happens, and we might see it at noon if Biden wins Nevada and all bets are off. Lithium and battery technology. Just a pretty chart. Everybody knows Tesla. I'm running up the learning curve here with this ETF in particular and its holdings, but again, it's a nice base, and the volume is picking up on the far right. The relative strength line looks really promising, and so it's in my Google alerts, and I ask you, my community, if you have any insights on lithium and battery technologies, plays, etc., other ETFs, I'd love to hear about them, and I'd love to share them with our group. Cannabis, this is the advisor shares, pure cannabis ETF. And what you see here, this is the daily chart. What you don't see is the Tilray and Canopies declining over the course of, the last 3 years, where you got a little bit overhyped, a little too much enthusiasm. Now, you see the volume picking up the way you want it to. Again, got to watch the maybe the New Jersey ballot question influence on this, but I'm interested, and I'm gonna be following this further, and I ask you to as well. This is the Ridex inverse government long bond. And this basically means that if interest rates go up, bond prices go down, and this is in essence shorting long bonds. And I think I mentioned before, Mike, that bonds suck, and the charts are confirming this. Now, it isn't definitive yet, but I keep going back to my very simple example. Every time money supply has acted like this, and every time gold has acted like this, interest rates go up 250 basis points at minimum, and that takes 10% off of your bonds, give or take, and that's a 25% hit, and that's going to hurt and leave a mark, and the 60-40 portfolio is dead, in my view. Next one, this is Jonathan Baird. It's a chart, and whenever I see multi-year extremes, my eye is drawn to that, and this is dividend yields, and it makes sense given what's been happening with interest rates, but it just shows that people are stretching for yield, and I don't want you to. I think that you have to be more concerned about the return of your money than the return on your money, because when people start going for high yield stocks, there usually is a reason that the yields are high, and I just really caution. Interest rates are where they are. I just think, watch yourself. Be careful, please. This is James Bianco. He's talking about bond yields increasing and being bullish. Not so sure. During the election, yields hit 90 basis points plus. Briefly, we were talking about 55 to 60 not too long ago. Doesn't sound like much, but if the 10-year yields keep picking up, it calls into question the Fed's. We're not even going to think about talking about rising interest rates. The bond market might do it for them, at least on the longer end of the curve. So my take: don't stretch for yield and avoid bonds. That's the show. Almost. Just a little bit more. Please also subscribe to my Bakes Takes YouTube channel. The audio is the same, but the charts that I reference are on the screen. Follow us on Twitter at BakesTakes_ and other social media. Please use your voice memo app Tape your questions and email to bakes@bakestakespodcast.com, or write if you'd prefer. I'll keep you anonymous if you'd like. Thank you for listening. Mike Wilson is my producer. Thank you as always. Have a great week. This is Bakes. And for much needed levity, and boy, do we need it, the Comedy Store Netflix documentary is just fantastic. Every episode's great. There's 5 or 6 of them. Everybody from Whitney Cummings to Joe Rogan to Jim Carrey. It's just fascinating and funny and makes you forget about all this nonsense that we just covered. And The Cabin with Bert Kreischer is he's out of his mind, but he's very likable, and it is just flat out funny. Whenever you have Nikki Glazer and the new Jenner, I can't remember her name now. Anyway, The Cabin is fascinating, and I recommend it, and hope to see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.